Hey my fellow ink drinkers, welcome to Dark Violet Dreams, where I share my love of books, movies, and other deliciously dark delights. For the month of November, I have decided to join in on the Cryptid Readathon, hosted by Jason's Weird Reads, Sin's Book Nook, and Fiber Artsy. I love all of their channels. If you have not subscribed to them, please do go check them out and tell them I said hi. They all create wonderful content and they are wonderful human beings, so definitely check them out. I decided to lightly join in this readathon. They do have some prompts, which I will put up here, and I think my books fall into a few of these prompts, so I'm just naturally, following the rules without trying, I guess. But the first book that I am currently reading is the Lake Michigan Mothman. I just dove into that last night, and it is quite interesting, I do have to say. This book is available on Kindle Unlimited. It is 223 pages. It was published in January of 2020, and here is what it's about. This book represents over 2 years of research by a dedicated team of investigators who have taken dozens of reports of a weird winged humanoid seen around Lake Michigan. Author and investigator Tobias Wayland has collected these reports for the first time in one volume, along with his analysis and insider perspective as a member of the investigative team. The phenomena described within represent the continuation of a decades-long series of events first recorded in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the late 60s, but that has likely been with humanity since our advent, and seems just as likely to be with us until our end. I've been enjoying this book. I don't have a whole lot to say. There have been several sightings that have been discussed so far. Quite interesting. I hadn't ever really looked super deep into the Mothman, but, and of course I saw the Mothman prophecies and remember not very much about it because I watched it long enough ago, but I do have quite an interest in it now that I have found out people have claimed to see Mothman around Lake Michigan. I live in Michigan, so we're on the other side of the lake from a lot of the sightings that have been talked about, but I'm very curious about this cryptid. The second book that I'd like to read for this readathon, I could have possibly read it last year. It's been on my Kindle for a while. I know I read a book about the Dogman, but I'm not sure if I read this particular book. I never documented it, so, and I didn't delete it off my Kindle Unlimited account, so I'm not sure if I read this, but it's not a big deal if I'm rereading this book for this readathon because it's only 34 pages. So it is called Mysterious Creatures, The Michigan Dogman. It's part of the Cryptid Creatures series by G.D. Pickering. I know I've talked about it, wanting to read it at least, but I don't know if I've actually read it. Gotta love brain fog. So here's what it's about. Oh, it was also published in February of 2022. Michigan folklore has it that the Michigan Dogman has been in existence since the 1800s and has since then been the subject of a lot of debate and creative endeavors. With flattering features such as an impressive 7 feet height and blue eyes, the Michigan Dogman doesn't seem like such a threatening creature after all. However, you throw in its canine-like features, human-like torso, and a chilling howl that sounds like anything but pleasant human scream, and there goes the legend of a fearsome creature. So I'm excited to read about that. Like I said, I'm from Michigan, so anything from Michigan or the Midwest is super interesting to me. So we shall see what I think of both of these. I'm having fun so far. I would like to watch at least one cryptid type movie. So we will see what my streaming services have to offer. Other than that, I'm going to kind of wing it if I decide to read or watch more, because we once again have a busy month full of appointments. Of course, holidays are coming up and things like that. So I just want to kind of keep things easy. I also have a couple of ARC or review copies that I'd like to get to. in a timely fashion, but I didn't want to let the whole month go by without participating in this readathon because I think it's a lot of fun, and I haven't taken a deep dive into any cryptids really. I've, read stories here and there, I've seen movies or shows here and there, but I haven't really dug in to the whole cryptid universe. So I'm really excited to kind of dig a little more this month. So thank you to the hosts for putting this event on. It just brings a lot of fun and joy into the community, and we definitely need that right now. Hello, it has been a long, busy, but fruitful day, so I thought I'd hop on here and give you a little update. I did finish both of my books, and I do want to watch a movie, so I don't think I'll end the vlog here, but I wanted to let you know what I thought of the books. So of course, I want to say anything that I say or any of my opinions are coming from my life experience, my beliefs, past and present, my mindset, then and now, all that. I think it's important to note that when reading people's accounts of strange sightings or experiencing strange happenings with strange creatures that are unfamiliar to the natural world, or possibly absolutely natural and just with the trick of an eye looks different. Fear can play a big role in this type of sighting. Obviously, I'd be incredibly fearful if I saw something of this nature, but I just wanted to keep that in mind as I read, that everyone comes from different religious backgrounds. Everyone has different approaches to life. Everyone believes in different things. So I want to be respectful of that. And so I also want to make a note that I have my specific beliefs that may not align with yours. So you may read this book and love it more than I did, or you may read this book and think it's a crock of poo. Who knows? But I just found it to be fascinating. I'm kind of a skeptic, just because I'm not as trusting of people and their stories as I used to be. So with the Lake Michigan Mothman, this was a longer book than the Dogman book, but at times it felt a little repetitive, but I think that had a lot to do with, people seeing the same types of things. There was a little bit of repetition in the explanations as well, which is fine. It's fine. This isn't a novel or anything. This is just someone sharing information with the world. So I found it fascinating that most of the sightings were in the general Chicago area. In my brain, I would think that something like the Mothman would prefer a more solitary place rather than such a busy and populated place. So it was surprising to me. I also wonder how many of these stories are fabricated, how many of them are true, because people can say whatever they want. And if you can't see them face to face, or like if they're really good at hiding truths or acting or whatnot, how do you know what's true? So that's the skeptic in me going, did it happen? And then there are others where I'm like, wow, That person sounds like they were fearful. There were people speaking on behalf of others because they were too fearful to come forward. It was just, there was a whole lot going on here. People saw what they believed the Mothman was, or they didn't know what they saw, but people saw this creature that we're discussing in different ways. There were a lot of similarities, and a lot of people saw the same things, but I was surprised at some of the differences. And I don't want to go too far into detail in case you want to read this. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. The second book that I finished was The Michigan Dogman. And this one was a lot shorter. It was only 34, 35 pages. I can't remember. Didn't take much time to read it all. And it was similar. It was kind of a similar feel. You know, they were sharing accounts. They were sharing like the history of the Dogman, both Michigan and just worldwide. I thought it was interesting that people have claimed to have seen a Dogman type creature on every continent in the world except Antarctica. So I thought that was interesting. That's where I kind of like shush the skeptic in me and say, but if different cultures and different parts of the world that weren't connected many years ago were having these same types of sightings, could there possibly be something like that? Because it didn't give me really a lot of time to immerse myself into this whole world, it just didn't affect me the same way that the Mothman book did. But they were both interesting, and I find it to be a lot of fun, and I'm interested in learning more about cryptids. I was definitely more familiar with the Michigan Dogman than I was with the Mothman, just because that was talked about a little bit, not a ton, me being from Michigan, but it's interesting. Now, I am currently reading a book that is part of a series by Calvin Ellis, and the first book in that series had kind of a Bigfoot / Sasquatch bend to it. And so I'm curious to see if the second book has some sort of cryptid in it. But I'm not reading it for the Cryptid Readathon, but if it ends up being a cryptid, then I will count it. Not that we're, racking up points or anything, but I just thought it would be fun to finish that, and then we'll see what I get into. But I'd like to find a movie or two to watch and then call it good, because I've got, like I said before, some arcs to read and things like that. Hello, welcome to my final check-in for my Cryptid Readathon vlog. I know it's the middle of the month, but I've got a lot going on coming up, and I know my limits. And while I have been enjoying the cryptid movies and books that I've been reading, I know that I will just keep pressuring myself to focus on that. And I've got a lot of other things to think about, and I don't want to enhance the brain fog that I already struggle with. So I am going to end it here while enjoying cryptid movies and books from here on out as I come across them and have the chance to read them. I'm just taking the pressure off myself. No one else is putting pressure on me. Absolutely enjoyed my time. I think I spent about a week and a half reading cryptid books and watching cryptid movies. So we talked about the books already. That's in the past. Let's talk about the movies that I watched. So I reached out on my Instagram and requested people to share their cryptid movie recommendations. And I got some great recommendations. Harry and the Hendersons was one of the top recommendations. I think 3 or 4 people recommended that. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I watched it way back in the day and hope to watch it soon with the family. I think they'd enjoy it. But I did not get to that because I was focusing more on myself rather than my family for this particular readathon, just because I make readathons about my family so much, and we just have a lot going on, and I felt like, you know what, I need something for me this time, and I'm sure the kids are okay with that because there weren't like specific prompts for activities and things like that that they could really participate in as much as other readathons. Not that I couldn't have made this about them, but you know, sometimes a mom's got to do something for herself. So I did enjoy my time in this readathon. So the first movie was recommended by the Bookeyman, Caleb, over on Instagram. I will link his Instagram below. He's awesome, and he always has amazing book and movie recommendations. So if you're not following him, I highly recommend giving him a follow. He recommended The Descent, and I've seen so much about this, and I've had people actually mention this after I did my As Above, So Below kind of review here on YouTube, and talked about it a little bit over on Instagram, and I was a little bit nervous going in, so I did want to see what exactly this cryptid was that I was about to watch. I like to go into a lot of things blind, but also when it comes to movies, if there is something that I know will scare me or stick with me, because certain types of creatures or like demons, things like that, tend to stick with me for whatever reason. Really scary looking things. I don't know what it is, because I can read a book and be perfectly fine after most of the time, but something about movies tend to stick with me as far as the fear factor goes. So I wanted to know what I was getting into, and do I regret looking it up? Not really. So if you're the type of person that likes to go in blind, don't look up anything about this because it'll be fun for you. If you are the type that needs to kind of know the backstory to things before you watch them, definitely look it up. I don't think it hurt my experience. Actually, I think it may have enhanced my experience because I knew what to expect. But there were still plenty of jump scares for me in a great way. In a great way. I absolutely loved this movie. I believe I gave it 5 stars. So it basically follows this group of friends, these women that are adventurers. They go like whitewater rafting, hiking, cave exploring, things like that. So tragedy struck for one of the women, and they all kind of rallied around her and wanted to do something fun, you know, once she had time to heal. And, you know, she was still going through it, but they wanted to just give her something to smile about, you know, to be excited for. And so they go exploring these caves and discover that the caves are not exactly what they expected. There's something in those caves, and I'll leave it there because, of course, if you need to know more, obviously look it up, but I don't want to spoil it for the people that like to go in blind. But it was definitely an edge of your seat type of movie, really relaxed in the beginning, really fun, a lot of relatable stuff in there, and then it just ramps up and it just keeps ramping up, and I definitely want to see the second one. I actually don't think that I knew that there was a second and possibly third. Is there a third one? Until someone mentioned it, and I definitely want to watch it, and I almost watched that instead of the next movie I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to include a variety of cryptids for this readathon, so I decided to watch a different movie. So the next movie was also a recommendation by a friend that is both a booktuber and a bookstagrammer, Jen at Literary Love. She recommended Willow Creek, and I am so glad that I listened to this recommendation and watched this movie. I just watched it last night, and it definitely has Blair Witch vibes as far as like the found footage style goes, the wooded setting and things like that. And so at first I was a little bit nervous going in because I'm not the biggest Blair Witch fan. If you've been around, you know I'm not. It grew on me a little bit the last time that I watched it. I think I watched it sometime this past summer, but I still don't do that well with the found footage style filming because it makes me almost like not car sick, not seasick, but you know, motion sickness. I kind of feel like a little nauseous, which is funny because when I do my vlogs, I clearly don't hold my camera perfectly steady when I'm showing you things from my perspective. But I actually did really enjoy this. There were some things that weren't as enjoyable, like the camera bouncing all around and shaking, but I thought it was really interesting. So this couple is going to a place in Northern California where Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever, was filmed back in the 60s. She's a little bit hesitant. She doesn't believe in Bigfoot. He's all gung-ho. He's wanted to do this since he was a kid. And so it's kind of fun to see their dynamic, their, you know, banter and things like that. Very cute couple, very relatable. You know, they're not like this perfect couple, but they're not like fighting like cats and dogs either. It's just like a good, happy balance. That was one of the things that really irritated me about the Blair Witch Project was just the way that they fought, which I understand that because if you're lost in the woods or in a cave or somewhere, you're like in close quarters and disoriented and all that stuff, you're gonna lash out. But I like the balance that they had here from the beginning all the way through the end. So they're on the hunt for Bigfoot and they interview some of the locals, and the town is super cute. There's a Bigfoot bookstore, which I believe is the real deal. And so I thought it was a lot of fun. There were a couple of moments where I definitely jumped. There were some jump scares, and I just found it fascinating. And I thought it was interesting that, you know, the locals are really protective of the area. But are they protective of the area, or are they protective of the people wanting to explore the area? And that is the question. So definitely recommend this if you like found footage movies. Even if you're not a huge fan of found footage, like myself, I think you might enjoy it. There are quite a few found footage movies under my belt now. Well, okay, not quite a few. There are a few found footage movies under my belt now, and this is probably toward the top. As Above, So Below, definitely the best that I've seen as far as found footage goes. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I watched it. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I could bump it up to 4, I bet. I struggle with star ratings because I have like my initial gut reaction, and then, you know, sometimes when I think about it, I want to bump it up or down. And so we'll just stick with that for now, but I did enjoy the movie. Of all the books and movies that I consumed this month, I definitely go with The Descent as being my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite book, it would definitely be the Mothman book, the Lake Michigan Mothman. I found that to be fascinating, and there was a certain part that made me think back to something that I experienced about 20 years ago that really kind of spooked me. So that one stuck with me for a few days, couple days in that regard. Just it conjured up some memories and this like fear that I experienced in the midst of those happenings. And so I don't want to go into detail about it because it's like, you know, people get weird about that stuff. But anyway, I'm still kind of a skeptic, but you know, I don't want to discredit the possibility of cryptids existing. Our world is big, and even in Willow Creek, they were having this kind of discussion, I should say, about whether or not it's possible that Bigfoot could exist, because, like, wouldn't they have found dead bodies? And he made the point, like, well, what if the other Sasquatches, like, bury the bodies like we do? And just this whole back and forth, and it's like, you know what, there are good points on both sides, so I'm still somewhere in the middle, you know. I don't know what to think, but you know, this world is a big place full of lots of life, and you just never know. We'll leave it there. You just never know. So I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite cryptid books and movies? Nonfiction, documentaries, fiction, what have you? Let me know down below, and I will try to check them out whenever I get a moment. But I hope you enjoyed this. I know I rambled on a lot. I feel like the rambly vlogs are a bit much for me, but maybe you guys enjoy them. I don't know. I hope you guys have an amazing day or night. Enjoy the rest of your November. Enjoy this upcoming holiday season, and really try to just hang in there. Find the things that bring you joy. Surround yourself with the people you love and that bring you peace and joy as well. And I hope you have an amazing day or night. Until next time, cheers.